Welcome to Outlaw Woodworking. Today we need to build a jib for the front of my excavator. Now, I priced one out recently and it was about $3,300, and I probably would have bought it except for none were available and you just couldn't find one anywhere. So basically, I found this picture of one that I liked that seemed pretty strong, and I used it as the basis of my project. Now this jib is going to be, total length is going to only be about 13 feet, I believe. And I'm going to mount it onto the bucket. That way I don't have to make any hardware for connecting it to the excavator. And this bucket that I have right here is pretty tore up, so I'm just going to do my best to make a jib out of it. And then I could end up leaving it as a jib, or after I'm done, I could cut this off. Basically, I need this jib to be able to lift the trusses up onto my garage when they show up. Now, I'm using 3" by 3" by 1/8" thick, and basically, I came up with this design from that picture, and I basically just copied the picture, and the only difference is, obviously, it's mounted to the front of the bucket. And yeah, I'm using a HARBOUR welder and also a plasma cutter. Now in the front of this, I'm gonna cut this 1/4", actually I think it might be 1/2" plate. It's a big thick plate. I'm gonna weld that onto the front of this. And right here, I'm cutting this piece with the plasma cutter. Right here, I'm cutting the angles. I basically mark these two pieces so that the flat plate sits flat against it. So these two need a couple angles cut on them. Right here I make a piece just big enough to weld onto the front of this, and then I'll be able to weld my spindle hitch onto the front of this. It was pretty thick, actually. This plasma cutter was able to cut it, but it was about 1/2" thick, so it's pretty thick material. Right here I kind of grind it up, clean it up a little bit. So this is day number 8. And basically on this day I spend the whole day making this jib. And yeah, it was fun to do. Except for right now it's mud season, so my garage has all this mud in it from my TOOLCAT. When I pull it in the garage every night, it tracks in a whole bunch of mud, so my garage is really dirty right now. Which in the future, all my equipment's going to stay down in the big garage. So this garage actually I'll end up doing an epoxy floor and just have one car in there and keep it real clean. And everything else will be down in the big garage. Now you can see right here, I'm cleaning them all up, getting them ready to weld. And this is pretty thick material, 1/8", 3 by 3, and you can see that's my angle right there. Now at this point, I've welded them on to the bucket, and now I'm going to weld all 4 sides of these 3 by 3s onto my bucket. Now my hope is that I can just take a plasma cutter later on and cut this off of the bucket. That's my hope. Either that or I'll just leave it on and get another bucket. Here you can see I'm welding the top piece. And I've got both the bottom pieces welded. Here I'm welding the bottoms of the 3x3s. Now on the bucket there's actually a big plate there, right there, so that should, it's sitting on a lip right there, so that should be pretty strong. Right here I'm welding the underneath of the plate onto the two 3x3s that are on the bottom. Next up, I grind the front of it and get that all cleaned off really good and get ready to weld the pindle on there, pindle hitch. One of the most important things when welding is keeping it real clean. Right here I'm grinding all the paint off of this pindle hitch. And this pindle hitch will make it easy for me to take on and off the strap when I'm lifting these trusses one by one up onto the building. And right there I start welding this thing on. This should be plenty strong. The trusses weigh about 300 pounds each, and I am going to do a test with this. I'm going to lift up, my snow plow weighs about 300 pounds actually. The snow plow that I mount, it's one of my accessories for the TOOLCAT, and basically my plan is to get this whole thing welded up, and then I will test it out by lifting up something heavy out in my yard. And I kind of had the plan that that snow plow was pretty nice and heavy. I mean, it must weigh at least 300 pounds. So I think if I could lift that without the excavator moving around too much, I should have success. Right here I'm putting in a center support. And what this will do is I'll weld this across the two bottom pieces, and then I'll have an upright going to that top one. Right here I've got it all sanded and grinded, and I'm going to weld in this centerpiece. I'm really hopeful that this thing will be long enough to, my trusses are 34 feet long, but they are tapered. So the chances are I'm gonna, and the heavy section of the truss is on the front of the garage, so that's the taller part. So I should be able to lift them from more on the heavier side, and then be able to lift them over the garage. That's my hope. We'll see we will know in a couple days if it's going to work. Right here I'm cutting the last piece, this little center riser piece. So the total cost of this thing, excuse me, the total cost of this was $300 in metal, $100 for the pindle hitch. So the total cost was $400. Now I could have ordered one like in that picture. I don't know. They said they didn't have them in stock, so I wouldn't have got it in time anyway, but they were $3,300. So basically I think this was a good way to spend a day and save some money and be able to lift my trusses up by myself with no crane, and I'll be able to keep this thing for future. I don't know what I'll use it for in the future, but it's a nice piece of equipment. And there it is, completely done. And you can kind of see how far it reaches right there. It's a good 20 feet, I think. All I need to do is get halfway. So I need to be able to try to get it in there about 30 or 34 feet divided in half. So I need to reach about 16 feet. Now right here, I put the drone up, and you can see the little snowplow laying in the snow right there. Bobcat snowplow, and I believe that thing weighs at least 300 pounds. It's really, really tough to lift. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to test out my rig here. And yeah, it's going to be a challenge. I'm hopeful that this thing will reach up and be able to get these trusses up there. On the day that we put the trusses up, we will have 4 or 5 guys here. So if we have to lift them, by hand each side, we could do that. But I'm hopeful that this is going to be, it sure looks like it should work good. We will find out though. So again, right here, I'm testing out the strength of it, just making sure there's nothing unusual happens, and kind of test the excavator too. Make sure it's not tippy, or if I'm lifting up a big truss, I don't want it to tip one way or the other. And I believe this thing weighs at least 300 pounds. It's really nice having the pintle hitch on the front, because my little strap, it just snaps right on there really easy. And here we go, up, up and away. It did not tip or move or anything with this big thing out there. Let me know in the comments what you think of my little jib creation. I think that's the max height right there. Now my trusses are getting delivered on Thursday, so the guys aren't going to be coming back till Saturday. So my idea was to do a little practicing on Friday, lifting some of these trusses up onto the garage. And I might be able to just lift them all up there and spread them out across the garage, depending on how strong they are as far as laying flat up there. And there you can see a little shot with the drone. I believe the trusses are 4 feet on one side by 2 feet on the other. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the dimension of them. So hopefully I'll have an easy time putting them up there. Right here, I'm going to go ahead and move this thing over out of the way and unload it. I thought it would be a little more tippy, but it didn't really move the excavator, so that's a good sign for the length of it. And I believe the weight of the trusses is very similar to this piece of equipment here, so I believe I'll have an easy time with it, hopefully. It's kind of cool to make your own stuff, actually. It's especially if it works. I don't know, it's fun. I grew up poor, so I we could never, when we were young, we could never afford to hire a mechanic to fix your car, or so you learned how to do those things yourself because you just couldn't afford to pay someone to do it. So, and it was the same throughout my career. I'd learn how to weld, or learn how to frame, or learn how to do my own electrical or plumbing, and yeah, that's how I made my living. It's fun doing it for yourself though, where you're not really, there's no pressure anymore to, you're just doing stuff for yourself. So it's pretty cool. Right here, I'm going to attempt to do a little drone fly around this thing, which you have to be very careful with the trees when you're doing when you make the drone fly around something. It doesn't really, like right here, it's going to do its own, it's just going to fly around a certain point of the excavator. There you can see the pintle hitch with the strap. Yeah, I'm pretty hopeful that this is going to reach. Yeah, I'm trying to fly this thing around it, but it's also got a lot of trees around there. And whenever you're doing one of these circle flies, it doesn't have obstacle avoidance, so you got to be pretty careful of that. Anyway, thank you very much for watching the video. Please subscribe, like it, ring the bell, and I will definitely see you pretty soon when we mount these trusses onto the garage.